frame of the sunglasses, you determined that there were 3 contributors to that DNA, that swab or that sample.
For submission 32, yes, the swabs from the frame, I determined 3 contributors.
And that means that you found 3 profiles that you could potentially do comparisons on.
3 contributors or individuals were making up this profile.
Okay. And the profiles had enough information that you could do comparisons on each contributor.
Yes.
Is that the right? Okay. And in your testing, you found that Semmie Williams could not be excluded from contributor 1, correct?
Yes, I could not visually exclude him from contributor 1. However, when I run through StarMix, it does consider the whole profile. He did fall in the contributor 1 position through StarMix, though, as well.
And Todd Blair could not be excluded from contributor 2.
Yes, that's correct.
But as it relates to contributor 3, you were never able to do any comparison. You were never able to, you don't know who contributor 3 is, correct?
So I excluded everyone else from the full profile, and I didn't make any associations with contributor 3, so there is still contributor 3 left.
Okay, that you were unable to associate with any individual from the standards that you had.
Yes, I excluded everyone else, and I still had additional comparisons that could be made upon submission of a standard.
So we do not know who contributor 3 belongs to, correct? Or have any information about who it belongs to?
Yeah, no, there was no information. Like, I didn't make any associations with contributor 3, or no individual fell in the contributor 3 position when I ran through StarMix. And there's still more that I could compare to.
Moving to the headphones, you analyzed certain swabs from headphones, right?
Yes, I did DNA processing on areas of the headphones.
Now, in total, the lab received 5 submissions for the headphones, correct?
I see that we processed 3 areas of the headphones.
Right. I know you processed 3, but you actually received 5, correct?
I don't know if additional areas of the headphones were obtained. I don't have that information in front of me, but we processed 3 areas of the headphones.
Would looking at the evidence request form for this case refresh your recollection as to how many items from the headphones the lab received?
Yes, it's possible.
May I approach?
Yes, ma'am.
So it looks like also requested was 2 other areas of the headphones. I don't know if it was submitted to the laboratory, but it was requested.
Okay. And this request form comes from the law enforcement agency working the case, right?
So the requester, yeah. So it's usually a law enforcement officer or the law enforcement agency requesting the case will fill out a DNA request in our DNA request system. So that will tell us like a brief scenario of what occurred, what items are requested for testing, and any other additional information needed.
And when an item is requested, it's labeled, well, let me ask you this. If it is never sent, if the item's never sent to the lab, maybe they ask you, they want you to test it, but it's never sent to you, does it still get a submission number associated with it?
If it's never submitted to the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office laboratory, then it wouldn't get a submission number through our system.
Okay, and on the request form, there's a column that says rejected, and I guess it could say yes or no, right?
Yes.
So if it asks rejected and says no, does that mean that the evidence was actually sent to the lab?
It's possible. I don't recall if all the items of evidence were sent to the laboratory, but for that additional round, the first round of testing or any of the additional rounds, we did not do those 2 areas of the headphones.
Okay, but it was requested by by Paige Cohen, the crime scene investigator, according to the evidence request form, that the lab analyze 5 areas of swabs from the headphones, correct?
So yes, additional areas were requested of the headphones, but we triage the samples. So as I said previously, when explaining our case submission policy, we do triage samples for first round testing. Doesn't mean we won't possibly do those samples during additional rounds of testing.
And you talked about the 3 areas of the headphones that you analyzed, right?
Yes.
But the additional 2 that we're talking about now were never analyzed at any additional round of testing, correct?
That's
to your
correct.
knowledge, at least, right?
Yeah, they were not analyzed for DNA analysis.
Okay.
I did also find my DNA request form, so yes, I also see that they were requested.
And you did not perform any serology on the swabs from the headphones that you tested, correct?
So for the headphones that were that I tested, they went through the serology process, but they were preserved for DNA analysis, meaning I took them out of the original packaging. I noted any sort of discoloration of the swabs and then placed them in coin envelopes labeled with the case number, submission number, a description of what it is, my initials, and date. But no serological tests such as for blood or semen were conducted on those samples.
Okay. In terms of submission 10, which were the swabs from the interior of the ear cushions of the headphones, you
Yes.
found 2 contributors, correct?
So for submission 10, yes, 2 contributors.
And you indicated that there was very strong support that Ryan Rogers was associated with the contributor 2.
Very strong support if the DNA profile obtained originated from Ryan Rogers and an unknown unrelated individual than if the DNA profile obtained originated from 2 unknown unrelated individuals.
So let me actually rephrase. So you found very strong statistical support that Ryan Rogers was a contributor to the DNA profile from this swab, correct?
Then if it originated from 2 unknown unrelated individuals, yes.
Well, I'm in your report, I'm using your words. The statistical result provides very strong support for the proposition that Ryan Rogers is a contributor to the DNA profile obtained, correct?
Yes, so that's listed in my report. We've since updated a little bit of our wording so make sure we compare it to the other explanation as well. But not that this explanation is wrong, just making sure to bring it back around to it's comparing the 2 explanations of the data.
Okay. And you also found that it was more likely that this DNA profile, is that the right
Yes.
term?
Yes.
Resulted from 2 unknown individuals than if it resulted from Semmie Williams and an unknown individual, correct?
1 minute while I look at the second report. So for submission 10, the DNA profile obtained provides moderate support if it originated from 2 unknown unrelated individuals than if the DNA profile obtained originated from Semmie Williams, an unknown unrelated individual. So it's providing moderate support for that second explanation of the data over the first explanation.
And that second explanation would be that Semmie Williams is not a contributor to the DNA profile, correct?
Yes.
Moving on to the socks that you analyzed, which were submissions 3A and 3B. Sock number 1, 3A, you found 4 contributors to that profile, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that would be 4, again, contributors with enough information to make potential comparisons to?
Yes, I was able to compare to all portions of that profile.
Okay. And Mr. Williams' DNA was excluded from all 4 of those contributors.
For SOC 1, he was excluded from all 4 portions of the SOC of that profile.
That was my question. Okay. And so for SOC number 2, you also found 4 contributors to the DNA profile.
Yes.
All 4 of those profiles had enough information to be potentially compared, right?
Yes, I could compare to all portions of that profile.
Okay. And you assume in that Ryan Rogers is contributor 1, right?
I assumed Ryan Rogers in it, and then StarMix put him into contributor 1. Anytime I assume an individual in StarMix, it always puts it into contributor 1 position.
Okay. And that's because the socks came from him, right?
Yes, it was noted that they were Ryan Rogers socks.
Okay. And although you could not visually exclude Mr. Williams as a contributor to that profile, the statistical analysis said that it's more likely than not that he was not a contributor to that profile with Mr. Rogers, correct?
Yes, the statistical result provided moderate support for the proposition that Semmie Williams Jr. and Ryan Rogers together are not contributing to this DNA profile. So it's more support for the second explanation of the data, that the DNA profile obtained originally from Ryan Rogers and 3 unknown unrelated individuals, than if the DNA profile obtained originally from Ryan Rogers, Semmie Williams Jr., and 2 unknown unrelated individuals.
And your statistical analysis of SOC 2 also found moderate support that Todd Blair and Ryan Rogers were not contributors together to the DNA profile, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So moving on to the swabs from the bicycle that you processed. You processed 3 areas, or swabs, I guess, from 3 different areas of the bicycle, right?
Yes, 3 different areas of the bicycle went through DNA processing.
Okay. And these swabs were given to you. You didn't swab the bike yourself, correct?
No, they came in as swabs.
All right. And one of those areas was a red stain on the bar across the bike.
Yes, submission 11 was swabs from red stain label C bar across the bike.
And Mr. Williams was excluded from those swabs, or that sample.
Yes, he was excluded.
You also analyzed swabs from the handlebar of the bicycle.
Yes, that's correct.
And Mr. Williams was excluded from that sample.
Yes.
And you analyzed swabs from the bottom seat of the bicycle.
Yes.
Mr. Williams was also excluded from that sample.
Yes, he was.
Okay. None of your analysis, he was excluded from all of the samples you analyzed as it relates to the bike, correct?
Yes, he was excluded from all the samples processed from the bike.
Okay. You also processed a black sweatshirt, or you analyzed, I guess.
Yes, it went through DNA processing.
Yes. And I think as you testified, you did not actually do the swabs. That was for actually swab the sweatshirt. That was another analyst, right?
Yes, another analyst swabbed the sweatshirt.
And all of you all are trained the same way in how to collect the samples from items that you receive, right?
Yes, we all go through serology test training.
And there were specifically 3 areas that were swabbed and subsequently analyzed, right?
Yes, there was 3 areas that moved on for DNA analysis.
Okay, and one area was like the cuffs, right?
Outside cuffs.
Okay, which would be like the outside wrist area of the sweatshirt, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the other was the outside bottom of the sweatshirt. Would that be like the bottom hem kind of area?
Yes, I would believe it would be the bottom. So the serologist noted it's the outside bottom, front and back, avoiding reddish brownish discoloration. So it's the outside bottom. I would think of the hoodie.
And then the third area was the outside back / underarms, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And Mr. Williams was, his DNA was not found on the cuffs, the areas swabbed on the cuffs, correct?
He was excluded, yes.
Okay. His DNA was not found on the outside bottom area of the sweatshirt, correct?
He was also excluded from all comparable portions of that, yes.
Okay. And as it relates to the outside back underarms portion, which I think is area 4 in your report, there were 2 profiles or 2 contributors to the profile that you found, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And that, again, means there's enough information for both of those profiles that they're suitable for comparison, right?
Yes, I'm able to compare to both portions of that profile.
And you determined, or I think you might have assumed, that Ryan Rogers was a contributor, so he was considered contributor 1, right?
So I don't think I ran him through StarMix, so it didn't associate with a contributor position. But yes, I did assume him in the profile. It was coming from his hooded sweatshirt, so I assumed him in the profile.
And Mr. Williams' DNA was excluded from the mixture in this sample as well, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So he is not considered contributor 1 or contributor 2, right?
Yes, he was excluded from the whole of the profile.
And in terms of the other known standards that you received from Justin Rogers, Brian Rogers, Cynthia Rogers, and Todd Blair, they were all excluded from this as well, correct? This outside back of sweatshirt.
Let me just verify that. Yes, they were all excluded.
Okay. So there's 2 contributors to this. One can be assumed to be Ryan Rogers, right?
Yes, I could not visually exclude him, and he was assumed to be present, so a statistical calculation may be provided upon request.
But you have no information as who number 2 contributor is, correct?
I made no other associations with that profile, so everyone else was excluded.
Okay. Can I just have a moment?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Redirect?
May I proceed?
Yes.
Thank you. You mentioned on cross-examination that triage process that we talked about a little bit on direct for what gets processed. What goes into that decision-making process?
So we overall look at what samples could be moved forward. In general, for our case submission policy, we generally accept 9 items and evidence for homicide cases. For sexual assault cases, we normally start with the sexual assault kit, and then we'll move on to any clothing. And most other cases, we go up to 4 items of evidence for the first round of testing. Doesn't mean we won't go back and do additional items if needed, but for that first round of testing, we triage. For this case, it did come in to us as an ASAP case, so we did triage which samples from those requested to move forward for that first round of testing.
Okay, is that based on what the items are and what's most likely to produce results?
Yes, it's based off of what the item is. Have we seen interpretable profiles from those types of samples before? So we moved those samples on first to narrow down what samples to move on for that first round of testing.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Is the witness free to go?
Yes.
Ma'am, you're free to step down and leave, Please call your next witness.
Detective Joel Tavio.
So once you're comfortably seated, pull the mic close to you. It moves from the base. Say your first and last name and spell both names, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Joel Tavio, Joel, last name Tavio.
If I could ask that you speak up just a little bit louder,
Will do.
I'd appreciate it. Ms. Walensky, do you wish to inquire?
I do, thank
You may
you.
proceed.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
That microphone actually moves from the base. Yep, there you go. Okay. You've already introduced yourself. Where do you work?
I work with a Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office
Okay, and how long have you been with the sheriff's office?
about 24 years now.
What do you do for the sheriff's office?
Currently, and for the last about 16 years, I've done digital forensics at the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office.
Okay, are you a law enforcement officer?
Yes, ma'am.
What is your background in digital forensics?
Well, I did study some computer science in college. However, once we got into this unit, we go through a year of training and then a whole year of apprenticeship. That whole year, you're assigned a coach. We go to this 2-week conference. I thought I knew about computers, and this was like overwhelming amount of information. And then you're assigned a coach, and then throughout that year, you're given different problem sets, different methods of digital forensics, how to do casework, et cetera, very general. And then once that's passed, then in our unit, we go to an apprenticeship where we work under a senior examiner. We do cases under him. And every time we do something, he'll check it. And then if all said and done, then we get released on our own. And that's in the meantime while doing a bunch of other training. And then every 3 years, we also have to recertify for our unit.
Okay. Is one of the things that you do in the digital forensics unit taking cell phones and actually extracting the information?
Yes, that's become one of our primary functions now.
Okay. When you extract information from a cell phone, can you change that information in any way, or is it an exact copy?
Once we extract that data from the phone does not get changed.
Okay, so you don't have the ability to change what's in the phone when you extract it out.
Correct.
Okay. I want to take you back to November of 2021. Did you obtain a phone while in your capacity in Miami-Dade for extraction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know who that phone was from?
I believe it was Mr. Williams, I believe it was.
Okay, Semmie Williams?
Yes.
Okay. And what kind of phone was it?
It was an Alcatel Android phone.
Okay. How did you go through the process of extracting the data from that phone?
Yes, I did.
How did you do that?
So a detective brought in, I got called to come into the office. It was past our working hours. He had met me in the laboratory, and he said this was a phone related to a homicide investigation. He did have a PIN code for it, so when I received the phone, it was on. I was able to place it into airplane mode. I was able to get into the phone with the PIN code. I was able to put it in a mode that would allow me to extract the information. And then after that is when I connected it to one of our forensic machines. Well, actually, I tried various different forensic machines because it was that phone in particular I had a hard time extracting with different software, but I was finally able to find one that would download it. And then eventually I was able to download the data, put it into one of our forensic suites, and then report out the information.
Okay. Did you pass that data along to the detective, to another detective in Miami-Dade to then go to the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, at this time, the state would ask that the defendant's phone extraction be put into the record as Court Exhibit 2.
Any objection? You're not seeking to admit it, you just want to identify it for the court record?
Court Exhibit, yes.
Okay, that's fine.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any cross? Sir, you're free to, is the witness free to leave?
Yes.
So you're free to step down and leave. Thank you. Counsel approach. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take that break for lunch. I'll put lunch in air quotes because it's going to be rather short. Is 30 minutes sufficient so we can conclude at 3? All right, enjoy your lunch break. No texting, tweeting, blogging, emailing, sending or accepting messages, communications of any kind about this case or your jury service. Have a good break. I'll see you at 1. Anything to address before we break for lunch? All right, I'll see you at 1. Is there something?
Can we come back like 5 minutes early just to address the autopsy photos?
You want to do that now?
I still have to pull them out, Judge, so we can.
Okay.
When we come back.
So why don't we come back at 10 to 1?
Okay.
Because I don't think it'll take 5 minutes.
No, Judge, I'm whittling it.
I have been a lawyer, so I'll just say 10 to 1. All right, see you.
Have a good
Thank
lunch.
you too. I'm coming, Deputy.